All right, so sorry for the big lapse in video making. Um, it's a whole bunch of other school things that I needed to take care of first. But we're going to be going back to the series a of game journal entries. So for game journal number 5, I'm going to be talking about Red Dead Redemption 2. So, I absolutely loved Red Dead Redemption 2. I think a lot of people did as well. I think Rockstar is really notorious for just making really, really fun games and just the ability to do just about anything that you could possibly imagine. They do it. And the one thing that I really I loved about Red Dead Redemption 2 is that it was a role playing game for sure, but also it kind of was like a Wild West simulator. There was a bunch of different things that you could be going and doing, like you could go to a local tavern or bar or whatever, and you could play poker or blackjack or other types of games within the game that you are playing. Otherwise, you can just walk in there and just start shooting everybody, and start a brawl. You can drink there if you wanted to. But overall, I mean, there was just so many things to do, just that encapsulates the entirety of the game. That was just so much fun and so interesting. It almost felt like you didn't really have to be doing the same thing every single time that you walked in. So now, going into the storyline was fantastic. So, it had been a while, obviously, since I played the original Red Dead Redemption, so I kind of was a little bit surprised that they did the prequel before, what was going on in Red Dead Redemption, the original, so, but I thought it was fantastic. Just right away, right off the bat, you get into this, like, Wild West theme of kind of like taking on rival gangs and, for territory, riches, and all of that. And you already kind of get a little bit of a sense into, who the real enemy is right off the bat. And obviously, you think it's your friend. You think it's, somebody that's the leader, but all he wants is just power. And I think, like, narratively, they did such a good job with who the antagonist is and how the story builds so far to really have yourself basically turn on Dutch. And, kind of like, there's problems like, snakes in the grass, so to speak, of your gang that, has to be dealt with, has to be taken care of. And one of the main head of that snake is Dutch. So it was honestly such a fantastic storyline all the way through. Obviously everything built all the way getting to Saint Denis, and I love that place. There was just so much to do, and everything was so much fun going through the entirety of the game that it was just no mission felt wasted. It all served a purpose, and it all was interesting and made sense. And that's the one thing that I love about Rockstar games. They make realistic games. And even if you start thinking, oh, well, it's not that realistic, I mean, people are weird. From all facets of life, all time periods, people are weird. And I think always Rockstar just hits the nail right on the head right there. Like, they do exceedingly well with having somewhat unrealistic but still realistic events. So, moving on to the aesthetics. What I really, really loved with the game was obviously the animations and the graphics. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful game, beautiful world, and you could really kind of go throughout all of it, and it would all be interesting and fun. The only downside I had to the aesthetics were just like the overall map size. It was a little large, and if you wanted to go someplace horseback. It was going to take you quite a long time to get there. Now, I'm not really complaining too much about it because I'm a big proponent of large maps and having, 100 plus hours of content throughout the map. I'm a big proponent of that. I think it's a really good way to keep, players engaged and keep them wanting to do more and more and more throughout the world, especially because they're like, hey, I might not have completed this little region of the map, so I would really love to just, kind of travel out there, see what's out there, right? So, other than that, I really enjoyed how everything looked and just like the overall like play styles that you get to do, you know? And more so, I mean play styles and just having multiple different mini games that you could kind of focus on. So, like somebody who's maybe a lot more in it for just like the Wild West simulator, they can go fishing or they can go hunting. They can do a whole bunch of side missions for those aspects and still have a very enjoyable experience because a lot of those side missions are quite interesting. And even just also having to deal with, the big exotic animals and then, getting the pelts and, all of that. I mean, it's fantastic. It's so much fun to just be able to take a break, just kind of walk away from the main storyline and do just about anything else. And it's so much fun. If you wanted to, go, get a new horse, train a new horse, go find that white Arabian, you can go do all of those things while still having to worry about weather conditions and, other bandits or, NPCs that are enemies towards you, as well as just random other people and other experiences that are happening as you're traveling to that position. There's just so much to do, and it comes at you all at once, and it's like you kind of have to just do what's happening in the game. It's almost like you got to just do what's happening, right? And it definitely allows for a lot more, replayability, or just kind of like also just being able to stay locked in, immersed into what's going on as you're running past these people who are yelling and screaming at you for your attention. You might just be like, well, let's find out what it is. All I'm doing is going to this one area. Might as well see what's happening. And then you get into this interesting little sequence. Now, to move on to the mechanics. There's a lot to like. So, I've always enjoyed Rockstar Games mechanics. I think they're one of the biggest proponents of you have to actually do the task to get better at the task. I always found that wildly fun and actually a lot more engaging than having a skill tree. But don't get me wrong, I absolutely love skill trees. I think, it's a great way to engage the player into wanting to grind a little bit more so that they can get that really good skill so they can have, a lot more fun with the game, and it definitely, builds to the grind. But in Rockstar Games, there's just so much content and so much to do that it almost doesn't feel like a grind. If you understand what I mean. And I think they've done that exceedingly well, especially in Grand Theft Auto as well. Both Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, you actually have to be sprinting for a long period of time to increase your stamina or sprint speed or whatever. And same thing with like shooting. You have to actually shoot to get better at shooting. It's not like, and I'm going to rip on Starfield a little bit. It's not like in Starfield where I can just basically go to a planet, shoot a whole bunch of aliens and get XP, and then just magically be better at flying.
You know how we met?
And then it makes sense for the skill tree aspect, but it doesn't really make sense logically.
You have to love yourself.
And that's what I think Rockstar just nails right on the head. Having that ability to just work on something specific to actually increase your viability later in the game, which is so much fun. Plus, like, you know, your character can be underweight, overweight, just right, and it gives you boosts and negative effects. And, you know, there's not really a lot of games that still kind of do that aspect, or at least try to apply that aspect to the game. I think just in the past, a lot of people have been really just wanting a lot more mechanics or, you know, content in that kind of way. Just basically diversifying the mechanics that you can do in the game. And I really think about, you know, Assassin's Creed with this, is that they have a huge skill tree with a whole bunch of different mechanics, a whole bunch of different, you know, stuff to throw, swing, you know, like you increase your power, your stamina, you know, a whole bunch of different aspects. But GTA doesn't have that. GTA focuses on get these guns and shoot them, and you'll be better at shooting. And it makes sense, because that's what you would really do in the real world. You would, to be a better shooter, you got to shoot. To be a better runner, you got to run. You know, that those things are very easy to understand, and it just makes it for such a more immersive game. So one of the mechanics that I absolutely really loved is the Deadeye shot. I know that's not very realistic. It's not like you're going to be able to get out like a whole bunch of shots or slow down time or anything like that, but it's a video game. But again, it was really, really fun in the time being. Just to be able to have that ability and kind of like change the dynamic of the fight that's going on. And the fight scenes in the game, always super fun. I think it always adds an interesting challenge based off of where they like set up the NPCs that are shooting at you or trying to attack you. I think they do a really good job at making sure that it comes kind of like from all angles, and then they kind of, you know, make sure that they're getting to the right area so that they can defeat you. But again, it can really turn the tide in battle using that Deadeye, you know, getting your 6-shooter and hitting 6 shots and taking out 6 people. You know, it can really change you from dying, of course. But again, like, I'll go back to the mechanic of just being able to run and get better at running. Same thing kind of works for if like you start eating a lot and you don't do a whole bunch, your character gets overweight, but you get a health boost, but you just can't run as far. And then the vice versa. If you don't really eat a lot, you'll start getting a lot faster, but you'll be a little bit weaker. And I think that was interesting, and obviously there's a lot of cause and effect to the mechanics that happened, even with the morality system that they have going on as well. A lot of things can change based off of what you're doing and how you want to play the character. So in the case, like when I was just starting out in the game, I just wanted to be faster so I could run away from situations that I was obviously not going to win. But as I got, a little bit further into the game, I really kind of like honed in on wanting to stay right in that middle ground so I could have a little bit more health and also not get affected by the weather effects. And that's another great mechanic about the game. Obviously, you don't see that in GTA, but in Red Dead Redemption, you really have to focus on what's going on with the weather. So, obviously, if you're wearing something rather light, and you go to the northern part of the map and you start running through all the snow, you're going to get cold. You're going to get frostbite. You're going to start, losing some health. Vice versa, when you're going to one of the warmer climates and you're wearing all of this stuff, you're going to get heat exhaustion and overworked, and you're not going to be able to run as far. Everything like that. So, all in all, I don't think there was really any mechanics that I didn't enjoy within the game. I think all of them served a really good purpose to add to the realism of what's going on. But going further, if I were to take any idea from this game or take any sort of mechanic or concept, One, it would probably be the level design to start off. Now, obviously, I know I'm a big proponent of large maps, but there must be a way to better travel rather than fast travel, because that does break immersion. But when you think about the map size and the ability to go so far in so many different areas, obviously you need a good amount of scenarios or things that pop up. So that's something that I would utilize in the future. Just making sure that along these roads there's some pop-up event that happens every now and then that keeps the player engaged. So they're not just running for 5 to 10 minutes to get to this next area with nothing else happening. That just frustrates the player and breaks immersion, and just ultimately leads the player to feel like this is boring. All I'm doing is running, killing all these people, and then just having to run back, and I wasted 25 minutes doing that and running for 10 minutes both ways. And that's the thing that I would want to alleviate in a lot of like bigger games, just because I know obviously there has to be enough the hard drive has to be good enough to run all of that and everything that's going on in the game. I mean, obviously you have to do you have to be able to run everything, and also just has to be able to handle all the things that are happening. And bigger games obviously are going to take more of that hard drive, more of that GPU, that kind of stuff, where it's difficult to run a big game and have a whole bunch of content sprayed in. I mean, that's why we see games that are 100 plus gigabytes almost all the time now, because everybody wants more content, but it still has to be able to be run well throughout the entirety of the gaming session. So one thing that I would definitely do is just add a lot more, pop-up events into larger maps. That way the player still feels like they're getting engaged, whether or not they're running long distances. And I think what makes Red Dead Redemption 2 so good is that I didn't really want to fast travel too much unless it was a significant distance that I needed to go. Like from the very bottom of the map to the very top of the map. But for the most part, I would want to run on my horse, because there was so many of those pop-up events and so many little things that I could do in the meantime to actually still have a fully immersive experience and not have to hit the menu button and fast travel somewhere else.
Mr. Morgan.
That's like the best part about having a large game like that, is you want the player to still be engaged into the world and not have to hit menu screens. And again, that's why Starfield kind of, I'm not going to say Starfield flopped. I thought it was a really good game. I thought it was fun, but again, there was too many menu screens, hoops to jump through to get to a certain area, and then even when you got off the planet, it wasn't always inhabited, and it was just rather dull, lifeless. And I get that that's something that is very, very real in the universe, but you're just not giving the players the content that they deserve, or the content that they need. Maybe they don't deserve it, but they need it. They need it, absolutely. So that's one thing that I would really enjoy applying to a future game that I use, especially with the larger map, just having a lot more content that is available as you kind of run through everything. So the next thing that I would use is just, I mean, and this would be for certain situations. So I would want to have some sort of smaller skill tree, so that's not overwhelming, but then also have very basic stats like, strength, stamina, health. Those things be defined by the things that you do in the game. So maybe it's a situation where, like we're in Skyrim or something, you start eating a whole bunch of cheese wheels,
back in
it should show up in the character after a while that your character's gained weight, and you're a little bit slower, something like that. Just having that ability to kind of control what's going on within the game and control the character a lot more just gives a lot more player agency to what's going on and how they want to define their character and build their character. So I would say in the situation for combat events, there can still be a skill tree. Obviously, combat would be needed to enhance a lot of the experience points to get more stuff on the skill tree. But for the main thing that we're attacking right now is like you should be able to be healthier and have more health if you're eating right consistently, and then also you should be able to run faster if you run a lot of the time. Maybe jump a little bit higher if you jump a lot of the time. If there's a situation where climbing is something that you eventually just get better at as you do it more and more often. Those types of things are very, very interesting, and then also keep the player engaged to the general stats. Because if I think about games like Elden Ring, players for the most part, what they're doing right away is increasing health, increasing stamina, increasing FP. Those three things every single player does. It's later on when you start kind of branching out into maybe dexterity or, strength or, intelligence, faith, those types of things. Now, like if we kind of like correlate that to a different kind of game, or this game, everybody does want more health no matter what. It allows you to, stay in battle a lot longer, not have to worry too much about getting hit, where you have more opportunities to win the battle without getting killed, those types of things. That is, I think, universal. So what I would say is vitally important is separate those two kind of things. Separate those two entities. On one hand, you have general basic stats that are going to be encompassing almost everything that's going on. So I would say health, stamina, and then some other third thing. Whatever that may be, that's to each their own. But then you have a lot of the main mechanics that are going on, so more of like the combat mechanics, or I guess like the only thing I can think of right now is combat mechanics, but maybe traversal mechanics. Not so much running, but maybe like if it's climbing or something like that, you can kind of go both ways with that. Really just depends on what mechanics you want in the forefront. And I would say if those mechanics are combat mechanics, whether it be shooting, melee combat, anything like that, or some sort of tech things that you can do, have those be something that you utilize in a skill tree rather than something that you have to just increase as you play. And I know that might seem a little, I don't want to say redundant, because I don't believe that kind of focusing a little bit more on what's going on with the general stats of the character is going to be redundant, because they're just going to want to go through all the combat stuff, and they're not really going to feel like they have any player agency to upgrade their health. That's more of a situation where it comes to play styles. Like if your play style is very passive and you're not really getting hit, then you're probably not going to need or warrant the need for more health, right? And then, I would say the same scenario, if you're really, really passive and you're playing like a stealth archer, do you really need so much stamina? Not necessarily. Maybe the stamina would be correlated to you climbing up to those spots, so maybe you do need a little bit more stamina. Really just depends on what the designers want to do in the game and how they want you to approach situations. Now, on the opposite side of things, maybe you don't really need a whole bunch of, I guess if I was gonna put it a vice versa situation. If you're somebody who wants to just run in guns blazing, you're probably gonna need a lot more health because you're gonna have to take on a lot more people right there, right? So that aspect is going to be vitally important.
I'll keep her in black
to the success of the player. That if they're going to run and gun, they're probably going to have more health than the person who's going to be sitting back at the bench, right? They might have more stamina because they might be running a lot, or vice versa for the attack purposes. They're going to be maybe a little bit slower in the sense that that they're more powerful in that sense because they did that. And that's another thing that could be added to general stats, just like the overall strength.
Do you have my bag?
On the flip side, it really just depends, but having that duality of having specific things that you have to really do to increase versus having things that you just pick that you want to increase.
Listen to me.
I think that gives a lot more player agency to the things that you want to pick, and then also kind of defines the play style that you want to play, because that's what will be showing up when you actually play the game and how you play. So let's see. Another part about this game that I really enjoyed was just the sheer amount of mini games that you could do that are all kind of embedded within the game, within like what would be real life in this situation, like going off and fishing or hunting, playing poker, playing blackjack, those types of things, going to a tavern, right? Those types of things are very, very fun because it really breaks up what's going on in the game, and it's also rewarding enough to be or to feel like this is actually a grind. I mean, I remember when I was going through all the legendary beasts and trying to get that Panther cloak, get mastery on that, and it was an incredible time. And I unfortunately I remember a lot more of me doing that than me playing the regular game, just because it was so much of a grind that I would do it all the time. And it was still fun. It was still rewarding because you got these cool outfits, and of course the aesthetics or cosmetics that that go into a game like that. It's something that kind of defines the character that you have a little bit. If you're the kind of person that wants to wear that Panther cloak and kind of look like a badass walking around Saint Denis, or if you want to be somebody who just looks like an absolute savage and wear like a bear hat on their head, something cool like that. I mean, there was so many of those options, and it was just great. It was just a great time, just being able to kind of break up what's going on in the game to kind of just like run around and mindlessly try to either hunt for the best stuff or fish for the best fish and do all that. So it was a lot of fun, and a lot of the mechanics in each of those were very well thought out. Obviously it wasn't overworking the player too much, but it still made sense in what it was doing. So I would love to also apply one of those like those ideas to future games, just having mini games that's a player can really sit down and just have fun with no matter what. that's something that I would easily want to add to a game. Obviously, there's been a lot of games that have had things like that. I'm right now. I'm thinking Valhalla with the dice game, but games that people actually play. Not I mean, maybe people play that game. I'm not really sure, but things that most people would recognize in like card games like that. So if I were to scrap any ideas that were really going on through Red Dead Redemption, I'm not even sure if there is anything that I would really scrap. To be honest, I really can't think of anything because there are so many things that you could do, like robbing, a store or a train, doing a heist like that. There's just so many things that you could do that it doesn't really warrant anything that I would scrap. I mean, even like getting down to the mechanics of utilizing a horse or what's going on with the horse and the mechanics that go into, taking care of it, feeding it, brushing it, keeping it clean, keeping it from, being any worse or keeping it from getting any worse than it already is. Is very, very important. Plus, just like kind of, okay, I'll amend what I just said, and I know that this is kind of throwing everybody for a loop. It's kind of throwing me for a loop. But what I would say is the most likely thing that I would scrap is just what they did with the horse mechanics. I think they were good, but I would say scrap it. But I would say scrap it, but in this situation, I would say I would like to see things added on to it. Some type of breeding. I'm to be honest, I've never did it, so I'm not sure if it's even possible. So
this is over.
Don't get on me too quick about that. But the thing that I absolutely would do is just add to the horse mechanics. Obviously, it's your main form of travel throughout the entirety of the game. If you added a little bit more to it, could make it pretty interesting. Just allowing players to have a little bit more agency with what's going on with the horse, as well as being able to train it to to be better, other than just running around with it. I think there could be something cool of being able to train it.
Mr. Morgan.
While you're at home, at your home area or at the stables or whatever. Having that ability would be very, very cool. And I know I kind of ate my words a little bit right there, but yes, I would say ideally there could have been more done, but it still works in the way that it is. So, all in all, I really, really enjoyed and loved the game, Red Dead Redemption 2. I think going forward, they're definitely going to need to figure out how to one-up Red Dead Redemption 2 for Red Dead Redemption 3. And again, I'm not really sure what's going to happen or how they're going to choose it, because obviously those games were about the fall of the Wild West, and everything is becoming a lot more connected and all of that. So I'm really interested to see where it goes. Other than that, I absolutely love the game. Obviously, I would recommend playing it. I'm sure probably everybody that has watched this will or has played the game in the past. But I would say stay tuned for the next few Game Journal entries, because some of those are going to be games that you might not have played that I would be glad to kind of give you a little nudge into playing them and just kind of seeing what it has to offer for yourself.
You know how we met?
I enjoyed
trying to rob each other.
playing it. It's got my seal of approval.
You have to love yourself a fire.
Rockstar, there's really nothing like it. Rockstar is, kind of in a league of its own for making games.
And we can have the knowledge of fire.
Just like those wacky, realistic kind of games. I'm thinking about Bully, thinking about GTA, Red Dead. Things that are wacky that can happen in the game that obviously make it seem almost realistic because those wacky things really do happen in real life. So, again,
I know that.
Really appreciate y'all listening. Sorry about the hiatus that I had from making these journal entries, but I'm happy to get back to it. Kind of catch up a little bit, as most likely tomorrow another video will be posted on the 6th and the 6th journal entry. So really excited to keep talking video games with y'all. I hope y'all enjoy. If you like the video, obviously give it a like and subscribe as well. There'll be lots more journal entries to come. If you have any other remarks about things you didn't like, just add them to the comments, or other things that you did like that I might not have touched on, add them to the comments. I'm always interested to, read what y'all have to say, what y'all think about the game, what your favorite mechanics were of the game, as well as why. And I'm happy to be active within the comments to talk with y'all about those types of things, because I generally love the video game community. There's just so many different kinds of gamers out there, whether you're a little bit more of a shooter type of guy, or an online shooter, or maybe you're more of a offline role-playing game. I'm always interested to hear. Everybody always has very different views and opinions on games, and I'm always interested to hear and maybe even have a little friendly back and forth about what's going on in the gaming world, as well as what's going to be a good game or what has been a good game. And if y'all have a game that I haven't talked about yet and y'all want me to play, I will be happy to take a look into that. So, and so I'll leave y'all with that. It was a pleasure getting back into all of this. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and enjoy Red Dead Redemption 2 if you haven't already. And y'all have a great day.